Okay, so if you have Saturn in the 11th house, so Saturn is like, I've said this before, Saturn is like a cranky grandpa that gives you tough love in whatever area of your life where he's located. For you, the 11th house is the house of friendships, associations, social movements, social groups. Society falls into the 11th house. So having that cranky grandpa there might have made you a bit of a loner, or you might have had older friends or few friends, or you might like very serious friends. It can manifest in different ways. So what I've done is I've put together some quotes to help you get through your Saturn return, and I hope that they're helpful to you. So the first one is a best friend is the only one that walks into your life when the world has walked out. Shannon L. Adler said that. So this really reminded me of a Saturn return in the 11th house, because generally people with Saturn in the 11th house are kind of lonely fellows anyway. And if it is your Saturn return, you find yourself alone, pay attention to who hasn't left your side throughout the years. Right now would be a really good time to really learn to value those friends that you have been able to keep throughout the years, because friends are good to have. So make sure you're appreciating the people that you should appreciate, Saturn in the 11th house. So the next quote is, I would rather walk with a friend in the dark than alone in the light. Helen Keller said that. So again, this is more about going through difficult times with your friends beside you. So even though you're going through a difficult time, if you have somebody who's beside you, that difficulty, that burden gets lessened. Just from the sheer fact that you have somebody with you to kind of lighten the load for you. So again, if you've had trouble in the past forming friendships, and let's just say you don't have any best friend, or you don't have somebody that you could count on, by the time your Saturn return comes along, it's a great time to maybe do some self-assessment too, some self-reflection as to why it is that you can't really invest yourself in relationships that much, in friendships, because friendships are so useful. And by the time you're 30 years old, you really want to start cultivating those friendships that are going to like go with you to the end of your life. So start working on those friendships, definitely. Appreciate the people who have been there for you. Next quote is, all social interactions require some loss of freedom. Errol Ozan said that. This reminded me a lot of the fact that 11th house Saturn people can be very, they shun social groups because they don't want to bend to the group. They want to kind of be their own thing. And this quote, as this quote says, like, all social interactions require some loss of freedom. You have to lose a little bit of the freedom that you gain from being yourself in order to join the group. So again, by the time your Saturn return, you have to really start self-assessing and see what is more worth it for you. Like, if you've lived your life up to 30 years old without not having very good friendships, then it probably is a good idea to start analyzing why, and maybe letting go a little bit of that specialness that you want to preserve in yourself. And it might not be a crazy idea to think about fitting in with a group or two, to kind of just explore that and like try that on and see how it feels. Yeah, try that. Okay, so for the last quote is, oh wait, I have two more quotes. Okay, the first one says, the crowd is untruth. Soren Kierkegaard, I don't really know how to say his last name, but I love that quote. The crowd is untruth reminds me a lot of Saturn in the 11th house people, because you guys really don't like to be part of the crowd, but you're curious because you don't want to be alone. So it might be untruth, but do you really want to be lonely, Saturn in the 11th house? If you're having issue with loneliness, difficulties are lessened when you have friends. So now really the last quote. Friendship is born at the moment when one man says to another, what, you too? I thought that no one but myself. C.S. Lewis said this. So this quote reminded me a lot of how we form friendships, and the way that we form friendships oftentimes has to do with us finding in somebody else something that we have experienced. So that shared experience really allows us to form a bond. So if your Saturn return comes along and you haven't really found that special person, really kind of use your Saturn return as a period when you can, you know how like people go on Tinder and like just try on a whole bunch of dates and people to date? You want to try to do that with friends and look for those similarities. Like, I'm not saying date your friends. I'm saying explore friends and friendships and look for those similarities that you have with other people. If you have Saturn in the 11th house, you can have a tendency to feel like, no, I'm not like other people. I'm not like this person. You look for all the differences. Well, during your Saturn return, look for the similarities. Try to see what you do have in common with other people. And that in itself will help you cultivate friendships. So I hope this video was helpful. And if it was, I will see you in the next video.